There is a war happening inside Buckingham Palace. And unlike most royal conflicts, this one is not being fought with words. No public statements. No leaked interviews. No dramatic confrontations in gilded corridors. It is being fought with invitations, with payroll decisions, with patronages quietly redirected and access slowly, methodically withdrawn. It is being fought with the kind of precision that only comes from people who have been planning this for a very long time. And the people fighting it are William and Catherine. The target is Camilla. Welcome to Royal Report Daily. Today we are covering the real, documented story of how the Prince and Princess of Wales have been systematically and deliberately reducing Camilla's influence inside the institution she spent 30 years trying to enter. No fabrication. No speculation dressed up as fact. Just the actual moves, the real decisions, and what they tell us about where power inside the British royal family has genuinely landed. Let's get into it. The Duchy, where it started to understand what William is doing, you have to understand what he now controls. The Duchy of Cornwall is not a ceremonial title. It is a functioning estate. £1.2 billion in land, property, and investments. Tenant farms across the southwest of England. Holiday cottages. The Isles of Scilly. Dartmoor land rights. Commercial investments accumulated across nearly 700 years of royal estate management. And since Queen Elizabeth's death in September 2022, every pound of it is under William's direct personal control. No consultation required. No approval needed from Charles or anyone else. William's first major decision with that control sent a message that required no translation. Annabel Elliot, Camilla's younger sister, interior designer. She had worked across duchy properties for nearly 20 years under Charles, earning between £19,000 and £82,000 annually depending on the project. A quiet, established, long-standing presence inside the financial structure of the Crown estate. The moment William took formal control of the duchy, Annabel Elliot's name stopped appearing in the financial records. No dispute, no announcement, no explanation given publicly. She was not replaced with a neutral professional hire. William brought in his own people, friends from his personal circle, individuals loyal specifically and exclusively to him. Royal commentators picked up on it immediately. The message it sent to those watching from inside the palace was completely clear. The duchy that had quietly supported Camilla's family network for 2 decades was now under different management. And different management had different priorities. That was the opening move. But sources suggest what followed went considerably further. The network being dismantled access to Crown events, proximity to official royal occasions, invitations previously extended to members of Camilla's wider circle, quietly withdrawn, appearances where Parker Bowles family members had expected to be present, restructured without explanation or announcement. The same slow, deliberate, entirely deniable narrowing of access applied consistently across every connection between Camilla's extended network and the institution William controls. Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, has seen his proximity to certain royal spaces and occasions reduced significantly since William took on his expanded role. The broader Parker Bowles family presence at Crown events has quietly contracted in ways that individually could be explained as scheduling or protocol shifts, but collectively paint a picture that sources inside the palace describe as intentional. Nothing that generates a headline on its own. Everything that adds up to something unmistakable when you step back and look at the pattern across 3 years. And then there is the Diana dimension of what William is doing financially, which sources describe as deliberate and personal. William has been redirecting certain duchy-connected philanthropic resources toward causes Diana originally championed. Mental health, homelessness, HIV awareness. The causes Diana made her own during her lifetime. The ones the establishment initially resisted her championing because they were considered too politically raw for a senior royal to engage with directly. Diana championed them anyway, and paid an institutional price. Now her son controls $1.2 billion in assets and $30 million in annual income. And he is pointing a portion of that toward exactly the places his mother pointed when the institution she belonged to was working to contain her. The patronages when Queen Elizabeth died, she held hundreds of royal patronages. charitable associations, cultural organizations, institutional relationships built across 70 years of public service. The redistribution of those patronages among working royals has been ongoing since 2022. Sources suggest that specific high-profile patronages that were being positioned for Camilla were redirected. Not through any announced decision that could be pointed to publicly. Just a quiet reallocation described by those familiar with it as reflecting priorities rather than logistics. In 2025, Charles granted William and Catherine the authority to issue royal warrants, the ability to publicly endorse brands and institutions on behalf of the crown. A privilege monarchs have historically guarded carefully. Extending it to William and Catherine was a public signal about where the crown's symbolic weight is being deliberately repositioned. Toward the next generation. Toward the Wales family. Away from the current reign and everything associated with it. Camilla has spent 2 decades accumulating the symbols of royal legitimacy. Patronages. Charitable associations. Ceremonial roles that give her position substance beyond simply being Charles's wife. Sources suggest that accumulation is being interrupted, piece by piece, quietly, without a single announcement. The jewelry that said everything, the most visible dimension of this dynamic, has played out not in financial records or patronage lists, but in something the entire world could see. Queen Elizabeth's private jewelry collection. Over 1,000 individual pieces kept in locked cases inside Elizabeth's personal apartments. Each one carrying emotional and historical weight that Elizabeth managed with extraordinary deliberateness throughout her reign. For 20 years, from the moment Charles married Camilla in 2005, Elizabeth never once allowed Camilla access to that private collection. Formal inquiries made through proper palace channels received no response. The silence was total and sustained. Catherine, by contrast, received piece after piece across the same period. The Cartier halo tiara on her wedding day in 2011. The Edinburgh wedding bracelet, built by Philip from diamonds belonging to his mother, Princess Alice, worn by Elizabeth every single day of their 73-year marriage, placed on Catherine's wrist at a state banquet in 2015. The Bahrain pearl drop earrings that appeared in Elizabeth's official Commonwealth portraits. The Nizam of Hyderabad necklace, the single most valuable piece in the private collection, placed around Catherine's neck in 2014, the same year Camilla had made a formal inquiry about that exact piece, which received no response. And the Royal Family Order of Elizabeth II, the most intimate honor in the British monarchy. A miniature painted portrait of the sovereign set in diamonds, pinned to the chest of women the Queen personally chose to trust. Elizabeth gave it to Catherine. She never gave it to Camilla during her lifetime. One woman received the constitutional title because the law required it. The other received the portrait because Elizabeth personally wanted her to have it. The distance between those two things was not subtle. After Elizabeth, when Elizabeth died, Camilla moved. For the first time in 20 years, there was no Angela Kelly guarding the collection door. No sovereign maintaining a deliberate silence about who did and did not deserve access. Sources suggest Camilla raised the question of redistribution through appropriate channels. Whether pieces Catherine had been using on extended personal loan should be formally reassigned to reflect the new constitutional hierarchy. Camilla was now Queen Consort. Catherine was Princess of Wales. The argument was not unreasonable on paper. Charles declined to make any immediate changes. He understood that any visible transfer of Elizabeth's private jewelry away from Catherine would generate a public reaction no palace communications team could manage. The collection remains in contested territory. But the pattern Elizabeth established across 13 years of deliberate public moments has not been undone. Catherine continues to wear the pieces Elizabeth placed in her hands. And every time she does, the statement Elizabeth made is repeated. Catherine's role, it would be easy to frame this story as William acting alone, as a son settling scores on his mother's behalf while his wife simply benefits from his decisions. That would be wrong. Catherine has been an active and strategic participant in building the Wales family's institutional position from the day she married William. And her approach has been consistent throughout. Disciplined. Long-term. Entirely focused on substance over performance. She has built genuine expertise in early childhood development and mental health advocacy, areas that connect directly to Diana's legacy, but that Catherine has made authentically her own through years of sustained, serious engagement. Not photo opportunities, not carefully staged emotional moments. Actual policy work, actual research relationships, actual partnerships with organizations that do real work. She has cultivated relationships with palace staff, with institutional partners, with the cultural organizations that form the backbone of royal public life. Quietly, consistently, without drawing attention to the cultivation itself. And when William's expanded duchy control opened new avenues for the Wales family to direct royal resources, Catherine was already positioned to use those avenues effectively. The arts patronages, the charitable partnerships, the cultural relationships that Camilla had been attempting to build her own position around. Catherine had been building in those same spaces for years. She did not need to outmaneuver Camilla dramatically. She simply needed to already be there. What Camilla is facing, the cumulative picture sources describe for Camilla in 2026, is one of someone watching their carefully constructed position being taken apart one quiet decision at a time. The duchy network that supported her family dismantled. The patronages she expected redirected. The jewelry collection she was finally positioned to access still out of reach. Her extended family's proximity to crown events contracting. Her son's access to royal spaces reduced. And sitting at the center of all of it, a future that becomes increasingly clear the longer you look at it. When Charles dies, the properties Camilla currently moves through as of right become properties she can only access at William's invitation. Sandringham, Balmoral, Buckingham Palace. All of it passes to William. Her likely inheritance consists of Clarence House and Highgrove. Significant assets by any normal measure. Completely inadequate as a substitute for the position she currently occupies. She would go from queen consort with the full weight of the monarchy behind her to a private individual living at the discretion of a man who grew up watching what she did to his mother. Sources suggest Camilla understands that arithmetic very clearly. The sale of Ray Mill House, her private Wiltshire retreat that she had owned since before she married Charles and had publicly described as her personal sanctuary, is seen by those close to the palace as evidence that she has already started doing those calculations. People do not sell their personal sanctuaries unless something has shifted fundamentally in how they see their future. Not revenge. Something more lasting. It would be easy to look at all of this and call it revenge. William and Catherine systematically dismantling everything Camilla built as payback for what she did to Diana. Sources suggest it is something more considered than that. Simple revenge would look like a dramatic public confrontation, a stripping of titles, a moment designed to humiliate. That is not what is being described by those familiar with how William and Catherine operate. What is being described is more patient, more permanent, and ultimately more meaningful than revenge. Think about what Diana stood for. Not the fairy tale image, the actual substance. Walking into AIDS wards when the establishment was treating the disease as shameful. Walking through active minefields to make a political point about civilian casualties. Sitting with homeless people and treating them as fully human in ways senior royals were not supposed to do. She was right about all of it. The institution she belonged to was wrong to resist her. And William knows this not as historical analysis, but as lived personal memory. He watched his mother be right while the institution punished her for it. He watched that happen as a child. Now he runs the institution. The emotional intelligence Diana was told was inappropriate for a senior royal is being built into the architecture of the monarchy William is constructing. The public accountability she was told was dangerous is becoming standard expectation. The genuine human connection she was told was beneath royal dignity is being made the central value of what William and Catherine represent. Sources suggest Camilla is slowly coming to understand something that is genuinely difficult to sit with. She won the battle. She got Charles. She got the title. She got the coronation and the tiara and the seat beside the king at every state occasion in the world. But the war was never about Charles. The war was about Diana. About what Diana represented. About whether the institution she tried to change would eventually become something worthy of the price she paid. William and Catherine are building that institution now, not as an act of revenge, as an act of legacy. And you cannot argue against a legacy. You cannot litigate grief. You cannot outmaneuver a son who watched his mother die and spent nearly 30 years deciding quietly and deliberately what he was going to do about it. That is all for today here at Royal Report Daily. If you want to stay ahead of every development inside the palace as this story continues to unfold, subscribe to the channel right now and turn on your notifications. The royal world never stops moving, and we will be here every single time it does.